Okay, yeah. I'm probably going to wait till later to do some recording, but it's going to include some information that I made some voice audio recordings early on this phone involving certain factors and the way of litigation de facto and res habeas corpus and the thing about the several factors. Yeah. So I have different recordings that I'm probably going to direct my attention towards when I make a video later on, because the way the light flares through the window, it's kind of like hey, I need to shave anyway. But yeah, it's kind of trying to get a good visual here. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So in any case, yeah. So I'm just going to get a good um, audio video MP4 format type of a quick look and hey, it's break time. Yeah. Yeah, all right. Yeah, so anyway, I'm working on getting a Pro. I have a Pro Vision and a Strata Red with the black hardware. Okay, I mean it's like core curriculum, to automatically have a double bass drum, and the thing with it is that it seemed to be the thing of it that really it is, before I even knew it or realized it, is going through the Stargate program, and yeah, something about going through a circuit that way, and then being taken to various places all over the world. It seemed like more happened while I was asleep. Okay, I mean for real. In that way, between a Stargate program and yeah, involving way far going on, and memory had become really the issue. And when I really realized that memory, was such a huge issue that way, and but anyway, yeah. So anyway, the Prohibition drum set and a Strata Red really was something about in my mind, what would be, I guess, considered maybe a retroactive future. Not that it was really an option, but I'm assuming that automatically that Pearl being like Pearl and Pearland, and Kobe ID 19 and being AND 114 and 4 being 19, and all that information about the Mercedes and some alphanumerics involving 72 and the first City National Bank, as well as the Kobe ID 19 of the money in the world, and other factors involving the thought of Mercedes. Yeah, but anyway, it's it kind of had got to a Lexus LF SA concept car of Geneva, Switzerland summit meeting, and what the summit is to that, as well as the compact center of the rockets in now Lakewood. Okay. And I'm really trying to, kind of stay calm a little bit about, in the Greenway Plaza area there, not far away is the Israeli embassy. And the thing about, in world history, it seemed to be, okay, right now, it's kind of right now I have a Line 6, okay, it's a guitar, it's probably the best. I mean, as far as quality and everything that's really involved, okay, and television programming, that way of the television series, the V series, television series, not limited to Seventh Heaven. And the thing about what seems to be obviously now, thing about the Permian Basin and Fort Stockton, and the Permian Basin really being the plateau, and what somehow in my mind it seemed to be the one movie, the one James Bond movie that's not about the Bond. And I mean, the thing about the television series likewise is the unit, and certain factors, and it seemed to be if it's going to be ultimately, the thing about the for Purple Mountain's majesties above the fruited plain, America, and the Ulysses S. Grant thing about the $50, and the thought of litigation de facto and res habeas corpus, and what television programming is to a medical power of attorney using a fixture in real estate as compared to a commercial venue of a living quarter, and what programming is on television, on K television, and VSAT communications as compared to W network, or the thought of PG13 W2, the thought maybe of a product registration of a birth certificate, or something a little more beyond the front lines of the beachfront of international monetary funds, like a telepathic birth, or the San Jacinto Monument, or beyond the Abraham Lincoln, Kentucky Fried Chicken thing about Colonel Sanders and Sand Software's storage area network and securities and annuities network, and how the kernel is actually a central processing unit. Involving binary numbers. Likewise, one of the oldest governmental computer mainframes, not limited to, but the thing about the kernel is a duration of American history, involving the color code being black predominantly, of slavery, Yet the freedom of similarities of like Christopher Columbus and the 200-year celebration and Abraham Lincoln, and the civil thing about the freedom and color code of like constitutional law being black and state statutes annotated, and some idea like in my mind very much so through like a lot of studying and looking about the you know color code that way of like the ERISA statute and how gross national product and warehousing is associated to like this. The thing about seventh heaven in my mind is automatically during the Richard Nixon, before, during, and after Richard Nixon in seventh grade, and seemed to be the thing about seventh heaven of seventh grade, and some idea like at the age of like 15 in 1979, the word I knew it being like 79, and even the your thing, or the Roe v. Wade with the R, and the absentee principle of like you being 61 in the news, and Roe v. Wade spelled with a W. Okay, and GMC raising a bar thing about the CEO and all kinds of stuff about analytical and symbolic representation and African American linguistic and all that stuff. But anyway, it seemed to ultimately get to like the thing about the jurisprudence. Okay, and I like describing you in the colors of like a world history as world class of province, and the 13-band graphic equalizer presenting night vision of the only two LED lights of like the pastel green and pastel red. Once again, measured in nanoluminance of night vision of actually the pastel green and the pastel red of the 13-band graphic equalizer that way. And what the PG13 rating has, and I mean the deal about the PG13 as, and yeah, the W2, okay, and ultimately Fox 29 News and some idea like pilot's terminology as like the Roger Niner Foxtrot deal, and what that is to like how to wear my horseshoes to the IceCapades and the Bering Straits, and ACTP colon representing the hockey stick, and the hockey puck and Swiss Klondike bar. Jill's hoping for a long and a little bit of humor about hey, how about that Jehovah's Witness Watchtower? The thing I want to mention real quick, since I'm going to do it, I'll probably do it again maybe, is the thing about the Whitney Houston song "I Will Always Love You" with Kevin Costner in the movie the Bodyguard. Okay, the thing with this is that Whitney Houston is it's kind of like an experience that really seemed to be like a Jehovah's Witness thing. Had gone to the Jehovah's Witness thing like probably around seventh grade, and basically as true as it gets maybe. And only discovered like this very home right here that I'm in now, okay, like in 1965, was actually like here in the same design as far as I remember. And the only thing I didn't remember, I mean, like anything about it, I mean, really until about the last 4 or 5 years. But there was like a consistent like need to call 911 and go through ER with a admitting diagnosis. It repeatedly was like congestive heart failure, and after like the third time going, I didn't believe a thing about it really anyway, to begin with, in any kind of way, because I'm really not the idiot, okay? The thing with this is that really after an admitting diagnosis going through ER, being a congestive heart failure deal, it's kind of like I didn't go for that. I mean, this went on for like 16 months, almost 1 week stay. I mean, every single time in the hospital, and the same admitting diagnosis, and I really kind of like was contesting the cardiologist. I mean, in every possible way, because there was like a combination of like issues involving what I was studying in alphanumerics as a telekinetic roll of the pen, like it's the accusation of a hood ornament, a telekinetic roll of the pen, maybe academic of alphanumerics and linguistics, based upon maybe the knowledge of an experience of a Stargate program or alphanumerics and linguistics, suggesting telekinetic roll of the pen is like mental power, okay, or some idea of like mental telepathy minus God, being alphanumerics of 177, okay, minus 26 equaling Holy Spirit, Secret Service of Jesus Christ, and Selective Service, and a whole bunch of stuff about we international, okay, and ultimately subconscious minus chase, being 181, Houston, Texas, Electronic Power, we international, Selective Service that way, and Pearland, Texas, USA, and attenuation, okay, and the thing about attenuation and the quantum, this being kind of Rule 107, okay, seemed to be the deal about the perpendicular spiral, and that 70 show on television, okay, and the Commandos deal, the one and only time on FM 1960, okay, and the one and only time I've ever seen it. I didn't even know what I was looking at the time, but I'm going to mention it real quick anyway, about the perpendicular spiral digital signal processor in a vertical sense of live production of an orbital digital readout display that presents the transparent parameters that would be normally horizontal on like post-production customizing waveform in post-production, as compared to like one line in the center of measuring cycle per second and oscillation of frequency, as compared to waveform presenting the parameters on the outside. And the outer intersecting axis presents the idea of transparency, yet three intersecting axes based upon a knowledge of that, okay. And some idea of like Westlaw and LexisNexis, and some combined in the way of like Lexis LFSA and Lexis UX, and the pronunciation of SOX, and what Sarbanes-Oxley financial instruments and SOX compliance is in color code, even to the simple pronunciation of like the Red Sox and the White Sox, and the Red Sox being like Boston and the White Sox being like Chicago, the central time zone, and headquartered that way of a time zone. And Boeing, as a matter of fact, the thing about line 6, okay, it's like a guitar, okay. And the Permian Basin, it presents like at the Jameson Oil Unit, the thing about the Permian Basin, the plateau, okay. And the geoprism is geoprism deal about that location, and television programming of the Houston area, linked all the way like to New York, as well as like Philadelphia, and some like African American linguistics involving Christopher Columbus and 1492 as compared to celebration 200-year celebration of America, and the way Plymouth Rock is identifying like the thought of the biggest mouth of the river being the delta, and the schematic of a triangle on the pi r squared of a 3-point star being pi r squared equating to like a 6-point star, and the horizontal absolutes of like the Israeli flag, okay. Yet the deal about the vertical absolutes of algebra going through calculus, and the different design E, okay, it goes through calculus. When it's into quantum, it still has the different design E, but not the structure that's in quantum. There's only two, and I'm almost for certain that it's the exact of Japanese alphabet letters, but it is the structure in that format, and I'm almost for certain it is exactly, and I'm not sure which one, but I'm almost for certain that it is actual Japanese letters in the structure of quantum, using the different design E beyond calculus, with what I'm speaking and referring to, the perpendicular spiral digital signal processor, the one and only time I've ever seen it. They didn't even know what I was looking at, but it's like a transparent parameter vertically presenting what would be normally the thought of post-production as a horizontal customizing waveform, and it has the increments of like 24, 48, 72, and 96 is integrating factors of digital processing speed of attenuation in post-production, yet live production presents the vertical as a transparent parameter, and orbital digital readout display was the one and only time at Commandos on FM 1960, okay. And the thing about that 70s show is the thing that seemed to be significantly of the 1980s, and all that information, and it's like a biblical Christian principle of spirituality of the Lord Jesus Christ coming from heaven, sent from God, manifested in place, and all the stuff about re-entering heaven from Mount Olives in a plateau, and Mount Olives is a plateau, okay. The thing about the Jose, can you see by the dawn's early light? I mean it's like automatically now like night vision, and the 13-band graphic equalizer, the pastel green of ambience of the 13-band graphic equalizer, measured in nano units, like even I'm almost for certain that even the pastel green of the Israeli embassy on the Greenway Plaza area, close to what is now Lakewood, previously in the beginning was like the summit meetings of Geneva, Switzerland. Likewise, a bunch of live concerts that I used to go to, okay, and linking the thing about Cape Canaveral and Pace concerts, and like Pecos County and Ector County. And my thing about line 6, hey, I have a line 6, okay. Yeah, sounds about nano, more for more, Bicentennial Man and the Oracle Corporation of Redwood, California. Thing about, the Bicentennial Man, and how the Smith Avenue location of Oracle Corporation, it seemed to be, what was in previously not a question in my mind of some like real normal stuff about, some real serious brands, had become, like an issue of like, color code of something, like state statutes annotated in constitutional laws, like Jose, can you see? It's like, wow, it's really getting hard to believe that Yeah, it's really getting hard to believe what I'm looking at on the internet about that location, okay? But the thing with this is that's not really a question about, Redwood, California. Or, hey, I have a Line 6 V series, I have a Line 6, yeah. ShotSpot 9090, a 13-band graphic equalizer of impedance and ambience of pastel green and red of night vision, and the whole say, can you see thing about it, okay? The thing with this about the Line 6 is that really, as far as like quality and special effects and sound, I mean, Line 6 is, in my mind, ultimately, I mean, the one right now anyway, plus it's a V series and has all the connectivity of like wireless and, I mean, every option like a lead guitar player, not limited to an electric guitar, but yeah, truthfully so, and wireless connection and like every, really uh, demand requirement, practical application is a standard featured option on the V series, okay? The thing it is about the television series, V series, and like the television series Seventh Heaven, I mean, it's almost like, the unit, okay? And the thing about the one James Bond movie that's not about the Bond, it's ultimately, getting to like, and, through like years of like analytical and alphanumeric linguistics and, process of elimination, with only, the only answers left by reasoning of analytical is unreal. Um, that way sometimes the alphanumeric linguistics and the thing about the Line 6, shots about 99 of the V series is kind of like, hey, of Seventh Heaven is like the Permian Basin and Guitar Airline and Emirate Airline being the 71 thing about it, and Boeing and the 52 being like Pearland, the Pearl, okay, and the Pearl Vision, and the Kobe ID 19 like Pearland, like Pearl being like 52 and 19 being 71, and Pearland the Z71 thing, okay, of like going beyond thought of like the operator Chevrolet Silverado or the Chevrolet Camaro IROC Z28 thing, and the alphanumerics of 213, okay. And the thing about that, and it seems to be like ultimately that the television programming of the Permian Basin, because it's kind of like the plateau on one side of a mountain, like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Okay, I mean if it's ultimately getting to the pastels of Univision, predominantly showing the three pastels in the beginning as black, like out by the drum shop, what was then by Chimney Rock, right at Chimney Rock and Highway 59 Southwest Freeway. Seemed to be the thing about the Remo Black Dot that way. I mean, it seemed to be like the biggest in the Houston area, and like I always went there like all the time for my equipment for the drums. Okay, but the thing with this is that Univision, when they built it, there was like a transition at KLOL 101.1 FM rock radio station. Okay, and Moby was there as a disc jockey. Okay, and the thing with this is that he had left there, and Hannah Storm likewise. In addition, went to like NBC in New York, not limited to one of the DJs of KLOL 101.1, Hannah Storm. And in any case, so like all that is like, to the normal perceptions of like, connectivity in the way between like New York and certain information of like jurisprudence. And I like spreading in about the jurisprudence of a black back, okay? And like world history of seventh grade being, the thing about Seventh Heaven, not limited to, the idea of like Richard Nixon, and the 200-year celebration of 1976 of the celebration of America. Likewise, the combination in reality and the principle and analytical way applied to like, Abraham Lincoln night vision and the civil issue of like, the slaves being free yet color-coded that way of the kernel of computer programming, okay? And it's like one of the oldest governmental computer mainframes called the Whopper, okay? Beyond the toilet of the white porcelain into the high-o silver of the stainless steel. I mean, the high silver, in my mind automatically is, not limited to, the Washington Post applied to the acronym HOA, Homeowners Association, and pronunciation of Whopper, the oldest governmental computer mainframe, in the way of the Israeli bird, the Whoopa. It's like legal median deposition that way, if even the Social Security Administration number with the last four, 1213, being L12 and M13, and ultimately it gets to like a L64, which is like my birth year. 1964, yet HTTP : // and Zion 1,000 Years Peace and Grover Cleveland, that way the US $1,000, likewise, that applied to, the blue and purple bird being like the alphanumerics of 128 and like 1,000 Years Peace being, like FM 1128, like about, probably like right at 0.58 miles from my home right here, and approximately like 323 feet away from like County Road 101, which is Bailey Avenue, which is one of the latest area codes in the Los Angeles area. I'm probably right at 323 feet away. from 101, which is also a highway, 101 in Los Angeles. I mean, and all the way up, I think all the way to like how far beyond Washington State into Canada, on the way to like Alaska. And what Anchorage, Alaska is, so you've heard news anchor before, okay? And what the Bering Straits represents, you know, behind a Swiss Klondike bar and a hockey puck and all the ACP colon and the ratio thing about it, and the Bering Straits in a way of like, you know, had I worn my horseshoes to the IceCapades, you know, a little bit of humor about that. I mean, but it's so true about the humor sometimes. I mean, it is so much, very much the answer in alphanumeric linguistics sometimes. I mean, you know, it's funny when it's funny, and it's, I mean, for real, not anything other than the humor about the answer. And sometimes humor is the only way to find it. It's so true about it. It's unreal. And so that's a little bit about, you know, what, you know, as far as like the word relation between architecture and platform, and what embedded encryption is to like the big four of like a computer programming and language embedded encryption, and how all that's combined as some idea, you know, like spherical quadrants of globalization. And one of the biggest words of international financial management is globalization, you know, not limited to the toilet, yet, you know, a spiral notebook of Fort Meade, Maryland, and like national security. And, you know, some idea of the marginal spread of Blue Bonnet Imperial Eagle that way, yet color-coded, still in my mind of like, you know, Fox 29 News Philadelphia, and like Fort Meade that way of color code, yet corporate executive officer CEO Robert Stevens in the alphanumeric 182, and the telepathic winner thing about some idea in my mind, but it still seems to be of jurisprudence. I like the sprite, you know, the two pastel different color, a pastel green, one of jurisprudence with a black back, yet identified like gross national product and constitutional law of warehousing, and the word involved with jurisprudence with a black back, and repudiation, repudiate, is really the deal about it, and the thing about it, and it's, you know, really sometimes, I mean, so seriously not cool about it, really, okay? The thing of it is that in any case, the thought about it is that sometimes, I mean, if it's ultimately getting to the thought of a placement based upon a willingness or knowingness or some accusation of like on behalf, you know, or some, you know, idea of like a you know, the Stargate program. The thing of it is that, you know, all that stuff about the being led to believe as compared to constitutional law, or, you know, a degree level, or reputable standards of consensual participation reflecting, you know, like in my mind automatically now, like a baptism during the gold rush, and what Juneteenth is to like, you know, black history as compared to, you know, Colonel Sanders, and what the kernel really is in computer programming of central processing units, and the language Ajax, okay? Not limited to, and it seemed to be the thing about Abraham Lincoln night vision that provides a considerable amount that seemed to be, you know, you know, I mean, if it's ultimately getting to like a power of attorney using a fixture in real estate as redundant frequency, or television programming, or like the absolute zero of the squelch, or the thought of, you know, the thing of surveillance in a way, or you know, professional witnessing, or, you know, the deal about a promissory note, or national security in a way. I mean, you know, I mean, ultimately it gets to, you know, whether or not if litigation de facto and res habeas corpus is only the idea of either knowing or not knowing how television is or is not used as a commercial venue of living quarter, and more so of like the advertisement on K television than the programming itself. Yet W2, I mean, it's kind of like the PG13 rating. With a W2, it only presents the issue of whether or not the, you know, some idea of a presidential governor or parental guidance is only the deal, distinguish the difference between 13 stars or the 12 Federal Reserve Banks, or the 12 tribes of Israel, or some like religious, you know, political religion that would maybe deviate other than, you know, thought of like a commercial venue of living quarter. You know, at this point, I mean, you know, all I'm thinking about is having, you know, really, you know, the entire deal about 106 years of building, yeah, for real. And the deal I'd mentioned, you know, like Aaron's spelled with 2 A's. And the thing about Mr. T and the A team, it seemed to be like the deal about triple A, because like Aaron's Club presents all this stuff about, it's like Ulysses as a grant, or a student loan, combined with a Pell Grant. And the whole entire point that totally turns it in a 180 degree, is it a default or a forbearance? I mean, really, the issue and the thing about default, okay, in the military, the thing about it, the thing of it is about the eye on the backside of the US $1, and everyone knows like there's like another eye, okay, and that there should be too, and really, it seemed to be an experience with the Stargate program, okay, and it seemed to be like the eye and the mind's eye deal about the thing about even the perception of distinguish the difference between like tennis terminology and the rectangle or the rectangular quadrants on the tennis court representing, international financial management in the form of like Lincoln Continental hood ornament at a 90 degree, and what that is to a high-rise building being identified, of printing, a bureau printing and engraving that way during the Stargate program seems to be the big deal about the word plaza and the location, okay, and really the only reason why I mentioned the LASIK laser corrective eye surgery is really because of for remembering something about the rectangle of a building that I'd been to and didn't even have any idea that LASIK laser corrective eye surgery. But it's like, hey, one of the best looking like coupons, yeah. And ever since then, it's like, hey, for real, okay. But the thing with this is that the only reason why I'm really mentioning it is because of the laser. Think about the like a Padre, the addresses at CBS, and the eye thing about I-59 and the eye. Okay, likewise in addition, Highway 59 being like the Alpha 140 in Pearland, Texas, okay? And I was mentioning, that 70s show and like a deal during the 1980s of at Commandos being, the Alpha 107, okay? And the thing about being there and seeing a perpendicular spiral digital signal processor, the one and only a vertical of quantum of the structure, okay, and the Japanese principle of like diners club symbolic representation. I mean, it's ultimately, the line, the center line of a circle with a center line vertically, and like reading Japanese from top to bottom, leading to like the structure and quantum of the only two that seem to be ultimately the exact impression of like Oriental and orientation as at a minimum of diners club symbolic representation actually presented grayscale shades in blue like a shadowed grayscale, a blue shadowed grayscale of that symbolic representation of Diners Club. And it seemed to be the one of the Diners Club with the circle in the center in it, presenting the idea of reading Japanese from top to bottom that way, and what quantum is of the Japanese structure of the letter and the alphabet, Japanese alphabet itself, with a different by design E going through calculus, beyond calculus, yet using a different design E, but calculus does not have the structure that quantum does, and that's where the Japanese BN71 Pearland is. I mean, it seemed to be like all the stuff that I've been looking at, okay, and what the deal is about the structure in quantum, and attenuation is the word involving digital signal processing, and how true it is, and I'm thinking that, since it's such an orbital digital readout display, I'm assuming that automatically with live production as an orbital digital signal processor in a three-dimensional orbital vertical, representing quantum of Japanese structure, with a different by design E, okay, and all this stuff about, Chevrolet geoprism is geoprism, and prism spelled with a Z instead of an S, and geoprism is geoprism, and the deal about Fort Stockton, Texas, and the rainbow, okay, it seemed to be like the whole entire point of like actually being there, okay, and Jose, can you see by the dawn's early light? And on Saturday morning, as compared to, I mean, like the Psychic Warrior, the book, I mean, really, okay, America's Foremost Psychic Spy, and the cover up, I mean, for real, June 14th, 1992, I mean, a baptism SAT, like, friends with Texas, okay, something about Galveston County that way, and the Mormon Church being the American religion is really, some idea of like Abraham Lincoln night vision, what Juneteenth is in that way, and what Juneteenth is to like, Christopher Columbus, or even Lee Iacocca at Plymouth Rock for the acceptance speech of the century at Plymouth Rock, and representing some idea like the biggest mouth of the river being, the triangle of like electronic schematics being the triangle and the pi r squared of a 3-point being a 6-point star in the Israeli flag of the horizontal absolutes of like, waveform and customizing waveform in like post-production of like audio production, not limited to, I'm assuming even for MP4 format. How true that is, I'm not real sure. I know for sure of audio production, yet at a vertical, the absolute parameters of that as post-production being live, the transparent, parameters once again of an orbital digital signal readout display of the perpendicular spiral, like the uh, two-dimensional surface of like the outer rails of the design of like one cycle of frequency, with the above and below the center line measuring cycle per second in oscillation with the dots in between, okay? And at a 90 degree, it would look like a circle with a dot. And ultimately, a pylon in the Statue of Liberty, and what seventh heaven is to the Statue of Liberty, and the 7 layers of the atmosphere, and the 7 nations, the 7 monies of Europe, and the euro dollar that way, and what seventh heaven is to television programming, not limited to, some idea of like New York, as well as like United Nations, and the thought of like Chase Manhattan, and not limited to, and the distinguishable difference between degree level, degree or non-degree. Really, even at that. And what a difference between checking count is to going beyond the thought of a method of banking. Um, Most people don't automatically see a checking account as like a Ulysses S. Grant issue or a student loan factor, ultimately leading to supplemental security of non-taxable income, representative of the color code of the 1040 EZ form, and you can find the IRA briefly on the 1040 of the pastel, identifying the Air Force One of the President of the United States Air Force One and jet in the pastel blue. The thing with this is that there's A and B schedule represents brown, and I have to actually think about the other color between A and B, and some idea of brown being 72 or Kobe ID 19, and something about the ERISA statute and the Apple iPhone SE and the SE being the difference between ERISA and IRA, and the SE and the Apple iPhone SE that way, okay? But anyway, I was kind of like thinking about all that stuff, and right now it seems to be the big deal about, hey, I have a line 6, okay? Yeah, I have a ShotSpot 90 Nano. Yeah, V-Series 7th Heaven deal about it, okay? And like I have a Pearl Vision, okay? I have like a Strata. I'm getting the Strata Blue. I would have got it at the beginning, yeah, but it seemed that ultimately it'd been something about the Stargate program. Waking up in my own home, I didn't even know I was in my own home. And even the lighting was like a scanning light in the middle of the night, okay? And it's like it scanned and stopped right on me. I mean, the furniture was different, and everything about it was, like 10, 15 years later, I actually purchased the drum set and didn't even remember a thing about it at the time. The Pearl Vision drum set and Strata, I don't think was available at all during, like the 1994, 95, 96, all the way to 1999. I don't think it was even available in the year 2000. But yet it was here in his home, okay, and I didn't even remember, not one thing about it. It's kind of hard to believe, but I actually purchased it that many years later, and I've had that drum set like the Strata Red, like right now with the black hardware, going on maybe 5, 6, 7 years now, I think. Well, anyway, like the Strata Blue, I would have got it like automatically, and I'm actually buying. I've already got like my one Pearl Vision VXS in the Strata Blue, a 12-inch tom, and I was going to get the whole entire drum set before I could. Someone else had purchased it, and that's what I'm working on is getting the entire set like I have right now that you see on my YouTube.com channel at WadeASVPriddy at YouTube.com. Okay. The thing with this is that I don't know what the deal is, but there's like some real serious stuff. I'm in a tent right now. Okay. In my own home, yeah, and that's in the same room where I actually record, on a mobile phone, and some limited. I was using a digital video camcorder and SD cards, but it's like, hey, like, who already got my freaking cars, okay? So like, I started using my mobile phone, okay, which is perfectly fine. The thing with this is that I'd already recorded like 500 songs, okay. I'm like well beyond 3,000 individual songs. I'm probably more than 200 bands, singers, and performing, artists and all that stuff. It's not a problem. I was just actually using YouTube.com for like a standard portfolio, and all this stuff is coming on. So, I didn't do anything for like quite some time because of the situation. And I actually decided to start talking about what you'll see me on talking about at WadeASVPriddy at YouTube.com. And I've been talking quite a bit like I am like right now, and talking about alphanumeric linguistic considerable, way more than, I could probably go on, day and night, for, years, for real, about, how much time I've really put into it, like studying, just reading the dictionary and the constitutional law briefly, whatever I was looking for, and, finding it in the Black's Law Dictionary, and, United States Supreme Court Southwest Court Reporter, predominantly of the Code Blue, Southwestern Bell thing. And that was taken over by AT&T, okay, but there's like issues going on with like a landline, okay. I personally haven't ever had one. My parents actually had one before they passed away, okay, and really hadn't been connected. I mean, even before both of them passed away. And yet, someone seems to be like, what's going on with the landline, okay? I'm not the one using it. And I'm really not going to. So, like, who is? So that's like automatically like not cool, okay? Or is it really? Or has everything like all of a sudden changed already, huh? So, like, what's the deal about the Pearl Vision and Strata Red, okay? Is it the Stargate program and realizing something about how it all happened? My father was actually in the hospital based upon an accident on Highway 288. It was in a hospital. And a card just like showed up, and I asked my dad, are you expecting a card? And considering everything that was like really going on, okay? And that Strata Blue, the Pearl Vision and the Strata Red was just like there. It's like, hey, I'm going to get it. Yeah, so like I went ahead and got it, okay? That's what I still have right now. Right now I'm actually working on the Pearl Vision and Strata Blue, okay? And like I'm on SSI, yeah. So like I'm looking at the Mississippi and on par driver as compared to the river thing about the misappropriation allocation of the Mississippi and the ISS and the mounting system for provision. It's like I said before. It's like I'm looking right at it. I'm not like grasping the connectivity. I mean, it's like that's the way it is with alphanumerics, okay? And it's like the ISS mounting system for the Pearl Vision drum set, okay? And the acronym ISS, like the Mississippi International Space Station, International Superstar, and Intelligence Opposite Reserve Reverse, and the SSI, the ISS and the SSI Supplemental Security and Superstar Intelligence. I mean, hey, so like all this is like going on in the way I'm thinking about it, and look at it, and very much I'm talking about quite a bit way beyond. It's not that I wasn't going to. It's just really wasn't quite the way I had intended. Doing it in my way, because me doing it my way would have been straight up to maybe DirecTV or ABC 13 or all ABC, NBC, and CBS maybe, or maybe something that I know seemed to be like if I didn't have my drum set, okay, I probably wouldn't have been on YouTube to begin with. So anyway, so like I started like doing that as a portfolio, and the thing with it is that with all this going on, it's kind of like it's getting to the point of like I had been talking considerable amount and some idea of like what I'm referring to now. But anyway, like it's already going on like 37 minutes and 15 seconds right now. And the thing with this is that like all that information presented as a PG13 to W2 or some idea of like a Ulysses as Grant issues, like, hey, I've already been through all that, okay? And the whole thought, intent, and purpose of medical power using its fiction in real estate as compared to maybe distinguishing the difference between an acronym of a DBA or a database administration or doing business as only as a method of banking of a checking account of Ulysses as Grant. I mean, who are you trying to kid, okay? I mean, if it's ultimately getting to a student loan of a loan and a Pell Grant combined, and the only distinguishable difference completely turning around is the difference between the forbearance, the IceCapades, how to warm my horseshoes through the IceCapades, and the deal about Calamity Jane and the Pearl, okay? And the fish swimming upstream, and the deal about one cycle of above and below the center line measuring cycle per second in oscillation. That way, and what that is to sort of a alignment of parallel universe presenting like the schematic of it, like the symbolic representation of the fish that looks like like a half a cycle above and below in chronological in a parallel series side by side. And the now thing, okay, is what that fish is automatically in my mind exactly the electronic power distinguish the difference between the McDonald's golden arches like a degree level reference standards and consensual participation in my mind, like automatically the Golden Gate thing and the Kremlin, and how true it is about the Kremlin about all the gold and the Golden Gates and what that is to the USFL football Houston Gamblers and the Lexus Nexus, okay, as compared to the Lexus LFSA, the little compact car. I mean, it's so advanced. I mean, it's like one of the coolest available. And how Mercedes Benz predominantly Sugarland at Highway 6 and Highway 59 Southwest Freeway in Sugarland, Texas, okay, distributes smart cars, smart for two, and ultimately it seemed to be leading to the Saturn Sky and a Scion IQ. In addition, the Lexus LFSA in combine of the Lexus UX being like the pronunciation of SA and UX as SOX of Sarbanes-Oxley financial instruments of SOX compliance, and all the information I've been talking about, okay, and so like and it's got the LF like like the psychic warrior, America's foremost active spy, and the cover up, a baptism, and not far from Sunset Boulevard in like Friendswood, okay, like an Eagle song, and Don Henley down at the Sunset Grill in the World Trade Center. You know, it's kind of like a cheap potty squat deal about the square and the floor, okay. Ultimately, you know, years later after the World Trade Center had been cleaned up of 9/11, my thing about 1995 is ultimately the most intense part about going to, you know, the circuit, and what a midnight blue color code on Air Force One, you know, in my mind. I didn't even know it was like on it because of like going through it, okay. Seemingly, like it's only the issue of like a duration of the Stargate program in uniform that way with the midnight blue on the Air Force One. Even finding it and knowing it, yeah, it seemed to be the deal about, you know, Stargate program and color code that way of the midnight blue on the Air Force One, and what non-taxable income is that way of like a supplemental security and international superstar and Stargate program. Yeah, so I mean, all that about the recent statutes seem to be the electronic benefits transfer, and like almost like, you know, everything about Aaron's leasing, okay, and Ulysses S. Grant and the America for Purple Mountain's Majesty above the fruited plain is like the Fruit Loop, you know, toucan Sam thing of the Israeli bird, the whoopa. Beyond the toucan, the two toilets, one white porcelain and one stainless steel, the high-O silver of the oldest governmental computer mainframe called the Whopper. And, you know, the Washington Post being some idea, like even symbolic representation analytically of like Univision, of like legal media and deposition. What was, you know, at the corner of like Highway 59, West Loop 610, you know, like the Houston Post on the inner corner, and Univision at the outer corner, diagonally. Like legal media and deposition, even the pastel colors are representing, you know, in my mind, a Remo black dot drumhead and the power Aquarian power white dot, because that Univision in the beginning had the three pastels and the black. And towards the end, before they relocated wherever they're at now, the building's still there. Yet it was like three pastels and a white. And pastel being 70 feet, Harris, Egypt, and Israeli, excuse me. That way, what the U.S. dollar is to the triangle and the pyramid, and schematics of like the Delta Force and Oldsmobile Delta 88, and like from Theodore to Franklin Roosevelt and the Roosevelt New Deal Act. I mean, for real, and between like Los Angeles and Houston, the ABC 7 and the ABC 13 is like you know, the Aaron's spelled with two A's and like triple A. Aaron's Club thing about leasing being alphabetics of 106, and like being with the double A automatically Aaron's is spelled that way with two A's. And like Mr. T, it seems like the absentee voting is not the absentee voting of triple A, of towing of like for vehicles, jet amphibious of J. Edgar Hoover and American Idol that way, of like, you know, the Federal Aviation Administration and Federal Communications Commission and AAA seem to be the deal about Mr. T and the A-team of television, okay, and the Seventh Heaven thing about, you know, even that, as well as like the deal about the Friday Night Lights and television series, the V series of the word copacetic of Twin Peaks, and the Infinity commercial and transitions between, you know, that guy, is she born with it, or, you know, then there's the V series actress of like Twin Peaks and Alaska, and the word copacetic, I mean, seems to be, I mean, the word that identifies, you know, whether or not a practicum curriculum is just on-site location of copacetic, that would be geographically attached as linguistics involving the Line 6 V series and the television series, and that specific thing about like Alaska and Anchorage of Twin Peaks, and representing, you know, like the summit meetings, as well as, you know, the pyramid and the eye thing. But the thing about the military burial deterrent seems to be the like the EBT, electronic benefits transfer, even Bluetooth. And the thing about the determinant and the D4 and the E5 being like I9, the pronunciation of I, you know, being like EYE, and 35 like, you know, I-35 in Austin, and Austin Powers Bubonic Imperial Eagle, and the tubula margarine, sticks of margarine, the rectangle sticks of margarine, and, you know, the 5 loaves of bread and the 5 fish, feeding the multitude at, you know, the Sea of Galilee, and like I'm going to go into that later on tonight, okay? But the thing is that it's amazing. There's a band Seventh Power. It's like I mean, you know, most people may not consider, you know, the information beyond, you know, its intended use or the automatic perception. Yet the meaning, I mean, of so many bands maybe misappropriation and allocation based upon preference. Yet, you know, the thing about, you know, political science, and the thing about the, you know, the aggregates of monetary domestic gross national product representing some idea like a monetary as a memorial or the footprint. And what that is in beyond a method of banking of isometrics and what volume is to the square pi r squared, and it applied to itself, knowing that the terminology is defined as squared as an automatic, adding the radius to itself twice when you hear the word squared in pi r squared. Yet pi being the 3 point, it's automatically like a 3 point symbol of like Mercedes in my mind, and COVID ID 19, and the color of money that way, and world news and money miracle and all kinds of stuff about it. I mean, like I really get into it, okay. And the thing with it is that the television programming of the Permian Basin, okay, and Friday Night Lights, and what the deal is about the Friday Night Lights, and the hypothetical metaphor in a way of like Pearl Vision drum set and the ISS mounting system of the Pearl Vision. I'm getting the Strata Blue. I would have bought the entire like Strata Blue like I already have now, and the Strata Red. It's just that it just wasn't available at the time, so I got the Strata Red. Plus, I played drums and practiced so much. The deal about sweating so much, with just it's identified as chrome, and I had an issue of it only being plated in a whole bunch of sweat. I mean, wiping it and keeping it clean and dry with the way I'm used to practice. I mean, non-stop. I mean, all day, sometimes all night, sometimes 2 and 3 days and nights non-stop. I mean, for real. Sweat, I mean, would be just like everywhere on the floor, carpet, my drums, and wiping it off, and all that going on, and practicing that much. I mean, just got to like, I'm not just going to continually do it every single time. And it presented the issue of the chrome not really being, fixer is plated, but flash, okay, and it presented that, what salt does in sweat on that surface. So I got the Strata Red with the black because it's like a polyurethane coating, okay. And predominantly that's really why I got it, because of the way I practice drums. I mean, I don't stop, and I just like continually like throwing sweat, whether I have headbands and wristbands and all that. Just, I mean, completely soaking wet, okay. So anyway, that's why I got it, okay. Plus the blue wasn't available at the time, but I'm getting it now. Yay! All right. So like I got the Mount Olives, yeah. the Mount Olives, yeah. Thing about the mounting system, yeah. And the plateau. Yeah. I have a line 6, okay. I have a Sawsbot 909, yeah, V series 7 yeah, and I have a Pearl Vision, yes. The Mount Olives, yeah. Plateau. I'm a double bass drummer, yeah. The hypothetical metaphor of like 2 toms being mounted on each E equal MC squared. I mean, for real drum set, yeah. And the big 6 thing about the pi r squared. I mean, it's phenomenally true about the 2 toms in a bass representing like E equal MC squared, and alphanumeric linguistics, and pi r squared, and a hypothetical metaphor, Mount Rushmore, and all kinds of stuff. And it's like, really, seriously, like I look at things in a whole different way. When I saw and read the definition of linguistics, the study of language, it's kind of like, hey, I thought I already studied English. I mean, anyone knows anything about, linguistics itself. I mean, and in addition, combining alphanumerics. I mean, I haven't seen it yet on any major university anywhere, on any university, any combined offering like alphanumerics. Linguistics is on every major university, but I haven't ever seen alphanumerics like anywhere on any academic anything other than just knowing to use it with linguistics, yeah. Anyway, so like it's in any case, yeah, it's already going on like 48 minutes and like 25 seconds right now. I think I'm gonna take a break because I'm gonna do a little bit more and upload this like right now. So like that's where it's at right now, and I'm working on deciding what I'm gonna do with my Strata Red, because I'm really gonna get the Pearl Vision in the Strata Blue. And I'm already working on it. Like I said, I would have already got the entire drum set. So I'm gonna actually purchase everything except what I have when I got the thing. Yay, all right, the Pearl Vision, like 12-inch tom, okay. And that's what you'll be seeing like on my YouTube.com. Plus I'm putting it on my like Regions Now card, yeah, and some like a drops of water and like a Mount Olives like a text on my Regions like Now card, okay. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, so like anyway, I was kind of like thinking that's cool, because the plateau, re-entering heaven on Mount Olives, is like, the plateau and the word transfiguration, alphanumerics 192, applied to like a new compass, and how the American Amplified and the Summit meetings are, like the home theater, that way of like power and amplification, not limited to, amplification of it. I think it's some integrating factor, like even VSAT communications in outer space, and a whole bunch of stuff about the Houston Rockets is like really, like Cape Canaveral and a bunch of rockets in the space shuttle, and not limited to, yeah, all right. So like I've like really looked at a whole bunch of information, okay, and like put like decades into it. That's like already like since like June of 1992, really. And I've stayed with alphanumeric linguistics really truthfully ever since. And this year being in 2024, and I have like an entire world of like an eternal treasure of like what explanations of like studying and looking at everything that way. But anyway, yeah. So like I'm gonna take a break right now. It's going on like 50 minutes, and yay, all right, 13 seconds. So there it is. Okay.